welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I am other host, Nessa. What are we talking about today?
Well, first, I don't feel like I ever officially showed this on the pod. I know I shared it on socials, but for anybody who's watching, well, for anyone who's not watching, I'm holding up a round plushie that I had a friend of mine who does commissions for typically like standard animal, character plushies, but they were going through a rough time, and I figured, hey, why don't I just get them to make a logo plushie of our of Over the Glass. So that's what I'm holding up right now. It's incredibly cute, incredibly embroidered because they're amazing and super talented. And look, they have their like tag.
It's really cute.
Tag. Anyways, if you see this or are interested in it, you could go look for them at Sweet Spectre. I don't know, maybe I'll put a little link in our podcast description if you're interested. They make great stuff.
Shout out the homies.
Yes, that would be Reese at Sweet Spectre. Anyways, so I know you haven't started watching The Last of Us, and you should.
I know.
But one of the biggest stories to come out the episode aired like 2 weeks ago or something like that. But I swear I've heard his name, and I swear I'm gonna say it wrong again. Keivonn Woodard.
Yeah.
Is the young kid who plays one of the characters, and again, I've never played the game, so I've only been watching the show. And there's a character in there who when I looked it up later on, the character in the game is not deaf, but they felt that for a while I was very like someone who when like the Marvel movies started being made, I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong, that's not how it is in the comics, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, here's my opinion. If you there's some aspects that you need to stay true to the original content, but there's room to evolve from the original information. And I feel in cases where if a certain aspect of the character within the game is not like critical to the story, then that gives you room to diversify. And so the creators of the show, I can't say if this was their intent from the very beginning, but whatever the case may be, they felt that, hey, let's add some inclusion and some diversity to the cast. And they went out and they got this deaf actor who did an amazing job, in my opinion, in the episode. And he just so happens to be a hockey player out in the DC area. Huge fan, apparently, of Ovechkin. And so shout out to the Caps who made it happen, where he got to come over to the locker room. He got to spend some time with Ovechkin. They had some, I guess I saw some pictures of him out on the ice, so he was skating around, shooting on goalies, whatever it is. And we just need to see more stuff like that. I had a blast watching all the little snippets that the reporters in that area and the Washington Capitals were sharing on their socials. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
I haven't watched anything new, really. So I have nothing to add to the pop culture. I've been rewatching.
Well, what about your feelings in terms of just that in general?
Oh, I mean, I love it. It's cute. I saw the video of him being introduced to Ovechkin, and he was like,
Yeah.
Like, he was
His
just
face
stunned.
was just,
He was just like,
I mean, he's just like any other hockey
this real?
fan. Just like, oh my God, I'm here in person. I'm looking at my favorite player. Yeah.
yeah, it was so
Yeah.
cute. And then just watching him like trying to communicate, obviously with sign language, and I'm just like, man, I wish I learned. Like, I still want to learn. I've been wanting to learn sign language since like I was in high school, and I just have never given it the time. But I will. I will learn one day, and I will let you know when that happens.
We just need, like the Matrix, just need to get plugged in and download.
Make it
Because,
instant.
I mean, languages are awesome. And I, throughout my life currently, I've tried to learn all kinds of, new things, but it's hard to retain it. And especially when you get older, like, it sucks. But, in instances like that, I think about how, it limits your ability to interact with folks when there's that boundary. I mean, I can even take from my life with relatives out in the Philippines when I first got to meet my cousins. Like, we just stared at each other because we're like, hi, you just wave, universal sign of hello, waving your hand, but that was the extent of it because they didn't know English, I didn't know Tagalog, and it's not that we don't want to communicate, it's just there's that barrier and it's rough. But in any case, shout out once again to the Capitals. If you're into zombie post-apocalyptic type shows, The Last of Us is a lot of fun. It's a tear jerker for sure. Especially, I mean, most folks in spaces that, I navigate already know about episode 3 and do not watch that before you go to bed. Because I was like, why did I do that to myself? Just like, I just went to bed. It's like happy sad. I just went to bed just being like so full of emotion right now. Like, come on.
And that's all you're thinking about while you're trying to sleep.
I know. I'm just like, come on. But it was beautiful. Anyways, so next up, I saw that Jonathan Chichu got inducted into
North American Indigenous Hall of Fame.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. I didn't know him. I wasn't a fan at the time he was on the team, but that's actually really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, for his journey to basically make it out as far as he did from an area of Canada that most folks will not be familiar with. So, and the fact that he was a Sharks fan growing up. So it's all just like, the Hallmark movie wholesome bit. So,
that's cute.
Congrats to Chichu. And we saw him last night during the Marleau retirement event, which we will talk about in a little bit. There was an article that came out from Ian Kennedy around Mark Frazier. Apparently, he was hired onto the Maple Leafs a few years back to be the manager of culture and inclusion and all that good stuff. And so he was talking about trying to help affect generational change in hockey and just his general outlook and what he wants to do within the organization. So, I mean, I guess just in general, it touches on how we need more of a focus on these types of things. And offhand, I don't know how many teams specifically within the NHL have a department or someone who's leading that cause. I would be interested to know how many of those of the NHL teams are doing that. So he played a certain amount of years within the NHL, And I guess offhand, after reading it and kind of like thinking about, from the outside looking in about the issues within the sport in general, I guess I think it's beneficial to have someone who has gone through the experience, who has played at the highest level, and then to take on this role where you can have that connection with the players within the organization. Like, I feel like players will respond to somebody a little better who they can see as like a peer, like he's gone through the motions, like he's played he's played at that level, it's like, versus somebody who comes in and is just detached from the sport, or whatever the case may be, kind of quote unquote like an outsider. I think there's benefits to having someone who's an outsider, as long as they are understanding of, they're not just coming in and just being like, well, don't care about preserving any of the things that are good within the sport and the culture. So that's kind of what I felt reading the article. I don't know how many teams have someone who is in a role of this type and where they're coming from. I know that the Sharks do, and I don't believe it's the same type of person.
Right.
So I think it's the opposite. It's the one I was mentioning about, like, an outsider, quote unquote. But I will say that from the outside looking in, the Leafs seem to be one of the teams that are really trying to put a good foot forward in trying to change hockey culture.
Which is really nice to see, because they are probably the most popular team in the league. Plus, their star player is half Mexican.
So the PWHPA came out recently saying that they're organizing a formal union and negotiating a CBA.
Good for them.
I mean, obviously, yeah, good for them. It's important to have. I mean, if you look at what recently with the Canadian national soccer team.
Oh yeah.
Right now, they're going through what the U.S. was going through, like what it feels like more recent than what comes to mind right now, but nothing new. Women's sports having to fight for, actually getting paid what they should be. What is it like, not to segue into another sport, but it just comes to mind, the U.S. when the U.S. national team was going through this, and how people were comparing how the U.S. men's national team, that hasn't been really great over the last however many years, and how much money they get paid to just like go to the like to be a potential to go to the what's it called?
World Cup.
Yeah. Just showing up, and they get way more money than like the women do, and it's like
they're winning the actual World Cup.
Yeah. But the women are actually winning things. Not that winning should be the, doesn't mean that means whether you should get paid or not, but it's like, if we're gonna be comparing things, if that's at the end of the day where it needs to go to, it's like
it's really frustrating.
The men just have to show up and kick a ball around, and it's no.
But Jay,
it's no surprise.
That's how
that
society.
I know. It's basically. But Nessa, we need to keep politics out of sports.
But
oh my god,
we're not the ones bringing it in.
I know. I'm trolling.
I know.
I'm trolling the trolls.
I actually watched the U.S. against Canada game for soccer. When was that? Last Friday or something? Not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And I don't really watch women's soccer anymore because it's a little harder for me to watch because I don't have any of the streaming services that it's on, whatever. But I was able to watch a bit of this game, and after watching the men's World Cup earlier, no, it was last year. It's you can see a difference in the pace in the game because, yes, the men can run faster, kick further, or whatever, blah, 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 stereotypes, but the women aren't constantly falling over and acting out a soap opera. They get knocked over, they get back up. If they get a whistle, a foul, whatever, they keep going. But they're not there rolling around oh my god. So I feel, maybe I'm biased, but I feel like they should make it a little bit more accessible for us to watch because it is a faster paced game than the men's. That's all I have to say.
I do prefer watching the women play versus the men, and I've gone to, not to say that you do you, but I've gone to some Earthquake games and I'm just yeah, these are fun. If someone invites me, I'll go again, but it's not to the caliber of when I went up to Seattle to watch the OL Reign. At the time they were the Seattle Reign, I think, and that was a ton of fun. And I think maybe also because there were a couple of women on there who were on their respective national teams. So whatever the case may be, I have way more fun watching the women play. And yeah, you're right. It should be more accessible. But, we could go all day about that problem. Because I have thoughts about some other things that we're going to talk about a little later. And, but good for the PWHPA for getting that going, and
now they just need to work with the PHF and mesh.
I will stay neutral to that because I just whatever. I don't know too much about it, but I just think that's not on the table at all, and I think that's okay to have 2 women's leagues, but that's just from what I recall seeing is that they don't want to work together, and I think that's okay. But then if they do want to, I just want women to be able to play the sport and not have to work
3 jobs on the side.
Third job on the side. However that needs to come into fruition, I'm rooting for women's sports.
Always.
Mark goalie goal.
I watched the replay.
So fun.
We know that I don't like to support the Bruins, but they do some cool things sometimes. And we always support a goalie goal.
The Bruins goalies instead.
Yeah.
I will 1,000% support them. And
it was a good goal,
ridiculously stupid friendship.
It's so cute. I don't get it.
It's so silly. Swayman was so happy for him. They're just disgusting. In not so fun news, I saw a tweet earlier this week about how Joel Quenneville and Stan Bowman are talking with I'm gonna
Kim Davis.
Yes, I was it's at the tip of my tongue. Talking with the VP for the NHL about getting back into coaching or whatever the hell, and just please stop. Just
to a point, or to an extent, there's I can see some good coming out of the fact that they're talking to Kim Davis, who supposedly is very, well, from what I've heard, she's very much she's a Black woman, right? So she's about being inclusive and respectful to others and blah blah blah. But they're like just move on. Like
They're toxic.
well,
This is the example of people who don't need to be in this sport. And like, what have they actually done to? I think it said Quinville will have a call with AHL coaches next month to share some of the lessons he has learned. Like, it's the same crap we see left and right within this league. Like, what has Hockey Canada even done to like redeem themselves in the eyes of all their, of those who would support the sport within Canada. And like this is nothing new. And it's like I feel like for why they're not coaching in the league right now, and you're gonna come back like a year later and be like, I've learned enough to get the opportunity to play to coach again at the highest level of this sport.
Yeah,
please.
But so here's my point of view, I guess, is like, yes, there can be room for people to take these sort of I forget what they call them, like these lessons that they're supposedly learning, going through this procedure of like relearning and like telling them this is why this is wrong, whatever, right? But I feel like, I don't know, who's Stan Bowman? I don't know him.
He was the GM for the Blackhawks.
Oh, okay. So
he was a GM, and then Quinville was the head coach at the time.
At the time, yes.
Of that disaster.
So consequence-wise, I don't think they should be allowed to come back into the league, but they can still continue going through those.
Oh yes, continue to grow as a person.
Unlearn those toxic traits that y'all picked up in this league. But like, at this point, it's just move on. Like, we're over it. You're old. Get out of the league.
I mean, take this opportunity to educate others about why your faults were faults.
Yeah.
But
no one
needs you back in this league.
Yeah, no.
It goes back to, everyone's like, oh, they made this one mistake, or is there no redemption? It's like, no, there's redemption, but why do they need to be able to coach again at the highest level or play at the highest level of the sport? That is a privilege to do that. Yeah. No one's saying don't be in this sport, but like, why do they need to be back at the highest level? Like, I just feel like the actions that
the entitlement
got them here in the first place, it's just like, well, Kyle Beach never got to come back to the NHL. Like, his trauma is just so deeply rooted in what you decided was not as important at the time. And it's just like,
and who's to say they even think it's important now? Or they could just be making it up to get back in, You
can just acknowledge that you were wrong, but it's just like, yeah, sure. It's so annoying.
I dream of the day that people will value morals over skill level in a person to play in these high level leagues, whatever. One day.
So that brings us to some positives, but I have some of my critiques, but I think it's mostly positive. The Sharks had their retirement ceremony for Mr. Shark yesterday. And prior to that, they organized a Legends game that happened earlier in the week, where I guess how that came about was, I think Marleau was interested in having his old buddies come back and have that moment for the fans to enjoy. And I think it was Scott Hannon who was saying on the broadcast that he kind of like spearheaded that project and brought back a lot of notable folks who had played with Patty and in Teal. That was exclusive, so no broadcast for it. I saw highlights. It looked fun. I guess I understand why you wouldn't broadcast it, because, well, I mean, apparently they sold out, and that money went to the Sharks Alumni Foundation. So, I mean, I get it.
I don't.
I just think that it's it kind of still gatekeeps the sport in favor of the money. And so that's the other side of the coin for me, where I don't get it.
I'm not a business person, so money is never a thing for me to criticize certain parts of this, right? So it's like, I'm a fan. I want to be included even though I can't be there. I have my own critiques that I've noticed. Should we get the critiques over with, and then we can focus on the positives?
So with Marleau Day, yeah, I really enjoyed seeing all, the folks that were invited back to celebrate Patty's retirement and his number getting retired, the first number to be retired for the San Jose Sharks. But we really could have done without Babcock. Like, I really did not need to hear or see that guy, because going back to what we just talked about earlier with these other folks in the league who, I mean, he hasn't come back into the league for reasons that I'm not currently updated on, but happy that hasn't gotten a head coaching position again. But I get it that I'm sure Marleau gave a list of folks that he wanted there as his like VIP list, and I guess as the team who's honoring him, you're honoring that list, but like it just anyways, but in general, it was really nice to see. I guess it was a sold out event, and Marleau talks a lot, which was interesting.
Yeah,
because he didn't really talk too much. Not saying that that's a bad thing, as I don't think you need to be terribly vocal auditorially to be a good leader. I just think because from the public perspective, it's hard to feel like at the time when he was a captain or assistant captain, like from the outside looking in. Yeah, it's just like, but is this team like, doing well under, you as captain? And we can get into a discussion for like a whole nother day about what that even means, like being an assistant or a captain and the impact of that on a team or whatever. But it was just kind of like, wow, you're talking a lot. And like,
yeah, I kept joking that that's the most I've heard him talk like ever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because he has the rep of being a quiet guy.
Yeah.
So that was.
But I can kind of relate to him being quiet. He looks like, because he's so loved with his teammates, obviously they get to see, his real personality. And like some of the jokes he was making, I was just like, not that I didn't think he was funny, but it was like, wow, you're really like, where was this guy when you were on the team? But I get it, him saves that for his teammates.
Him and Thornton together is just great. He said,
"Oh my gosh!"
The joke he made about opening his door for another young hockey player when Thornton got traded to the team, and Thornton just cracked up.
He's funny, yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
It was cute.
Yeah, it was. The ice looked cool with all the teal lighting and the stage they had set, and then the backdrop of the shark head. Nice touch. It was cool. My criticism was that, you know, they're interviewing a bunch of fans around the arena about what Patrick Marleau meant to them. And I noticed, like, whenever they would pan to the audience during the speeches or whatever's going on, even during the game, you could see a very diverse crowd, right? There's a lot of Latinos, Asian peeps, like, unfortunately, we still don't see a lot of black fans in hockey, but the fans that they decided to at least air on TV, all white, all of them, every single one of them. And I was just like, this is interesting because I see color in that crowd. Why are they only interviewing white people? And that's not to say that maybe only, like, I don't know how they handled it. Like, maybe they asked who wants to talk about Marleau, and then people would voluntarily walk up, you know? But it was just, I don't know, kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, especially because in the area that the team is, we know that every other person that you come across is most likely a person of color. So it's kind of, and since I live in San Jose, so I know for certain that the team that is embedded into the city is one of the most diverse areas, at least in Northern California. It'd be a stretch to be like, oh, we couldn't find a person of color to talk about.
They were everywhere.
You know? But, you know, but we're not sure how they conducted it, but it is kind of like, I can't imagine that, like, someone, like a person of color, wouldn't have something to say, because why wouldn't you? He was one of the greatest players to ever don teal. Like, he's been around for a long time, so it's not like, oh, I just got into hockey yesterday, like that guy on the the WHL team who's Marleau.
Who's your favorite player? Patrick Marleau. He goes,
who's that? Oh man, that guy's face would have been my face. I'm like, are you for real?
These kids.
And then that goalie comes off the ice and he's like, and he's asked him,
you don't know Patrick?
Oh, do you know who Patrick is? He's like, oh yeah.
Oh my god.
And he's like, oh. Well, he knows now. And if he doesn't, someone can just show him that entire broadcast
Oh my god.
of Marla's number being retired. So
it's fine.
Good times.
Good times. And now, do we talk about trade rumors and things?
Yeah. So at the recording of this on Sunday, February 26th, Timo has not been traded yet, and at this point, I just really just hurry up.
We're so sick of the rumors. We're like,
oh my
irked.
god.
Oh, now this team is involved. Oh, now this team is ahead. Oh, we still think Jersey is gonna get him, but wait, Vegas is now in talks. Do not. I swear to God, I will stop being a Sharks fan if Greer decides to trade him to Vegas, of all teams. I don't care what they bring back. I don't care. You cannot do that in your first year as GM. You cannot.
Greer would definitely make an enemy of Sharks fans if he does that. It's just nothing I want from them at all. And I don't even know what they could possibly, because the rumor being they're looking for a first round pick, top prospect, and a roster player. Well, Vegas does have a first round pick.
It'll be late first round though, because they're going to make the playoffs.
Well, so are the New Jersey Devils.
You're right. But I think the Devils have a better prospect pool than Vegas.
For sure. And at this point, for a player of this caliber, I want them nowhere near this division.
Yeah.
Like, nowhere in the West. If we can get, first priority, not in the division. Second priority, not in this conference. He can create havoc in the East. It's already chaos over there. They're all like, I think the East is going to be interesting to watch for this playoffs. Like the West, we kind of suck. So
who's we? I don't even count the Sharks. They're not in.
We as in the Western Conference. We as in the Pacific.
I know.
In comparison to points, like the Bruins, I think they won last night. So I think now they're like 96 points, which is like at least 10 points ahead of any team.
How many points do the Sharks have? 48.
So they're like just steamrolling through everybody in the West.
You think the East is taking the Stanley Cup back this year?
Yeah. Like if you were asking me who my money is on to get to the finals, all I've really been thinking about is the East. Like I just feel like at this point, whoever makes it in the West, it's like good luck. Whoever it is.
Yeah, I don't know what these players ate during the off season, but this year has been ridiculous.
It's just like to me, it doesn't even matter who makes it to on the West side for the cup. It's just you're just gonna have to hope that whoever you go up against had to play 7-game series
all the way through.
That they're just all the way through with like triple, quadruple overtimes. That would be like the upside to the East being so dangerous. Yeah. So
like I don't. The only time I'm paying attention to the standings is to see how low the Sharks are going. And so I haven't actually been paying attention to who's at the top.
I mean, Vegas is the top of the Pacific, but
it's a tight race between them, the Kings, and Seattle. And the Oilers, I think, are in the mix. Because they're only like...
But given how we ended up shutting out the Kraken, like...
it was one game.
Like, I understand that, but the one game against an Eastern Conference team, like the Bruins in a best of 7, like, you can't be playing like you played against us. Like, that's just where I'm coming from. Like, with the East, it's just... There's multiple teams that are going to be scratching to get to the top.
Like, just off the top of my head, the Bruins, the Rangers, and the Canes, I think. Are the Rangers doing okay? I've been hearing their name a lot because...
We'll see, pending a certain rumor that I'm not going to be in a good spot if this happens.
Is Tampa still doing good?
I mean, they have Vasilevsky, so they're always going to be in a pretty decent spot. Whether they're killing it this year, I'm not so sure. The Canes are just like wiping the floor with everybody. The Bruins are wiping the floor with everybody.
Oh, and the Devils. The Devils are doing well. Or they were.
Yeah, I think they're starting to do much better now that they're kind of getting into the groove. I would not. I guess if they do end up getting Timo, then that would change my perspective of who I would choose to get to the finals. But, yeah. So, I guess going down the line, Seattle waived Drieger recently. Mm. And I mean, I wish I had those problems where you have these goalies and you're just like, well, sucks, but you're just gonna have to send you down because we've got, Jones is having, a decent season, and then you have
Was he back from IR?
I think he had been practicing he's been practicing, I think, for at least, I want to say, like, a month.
Okay.
But I mean, who's to say what their thought process was when Drieger was on IR to start, throughout the off season. So they obviously felt like, well, we're going to have to get somebody to back up Grubauer. And so then they ended up getting Jones, which when they did that, I was thinking, oh, that's interesting. But, like, you guys have Drieger, but I guess they knew he was going to be out for quite some time. But then when Grubauer went down, then Jones got the number one starting position. And, all things considered, he's been doing quite well. So for Drieger to come off or be looking to get back into playing, I guess I didn't really see this coming, but it makes sense because they're doing well. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you mess that up? But, and, even though he has to clear waivers, I mean, like, you haven't seen the guy all season. So it's just like, it's no surprise that he made it back. He made it down to the AHL. But I think he's got like another year on his contract. So I don't know. I find that interesting that Seattle's got 3 potential goalies. Like, I don't think you keep Drieger down in the AHL. Like,
maybe they'll trade him at the deadline.
Guess so. Perhaps. But then recently the Rangers traded for Tarasenko, which made me feel like, oh, good, so that Patrick Kane won't be coming to the Rangers now. And then freaking Patrick Kane is like, no, I will only go to the Rangers. And I'm just like,
of course, the teams are bending over backwards for him. Listen, as I guess I'm a hockey fan, but I'm also a people person fan. Like, if you're a terrible person, I'm not gonna root for you. Chrissy is from like the area that Kane is from in New York, and she knew people that knew him, and they would all say like, he is not a good dude. He's an asshole. like he's not a good person. And then you've heard the rumors, the alleged things that he's done in his past. He does not seem like a good person. And so whenever the Sharks play the Blackhawks, it really irks me that certain announcers are like gaga over him, talking about, oh, he's such a good player and he's done so much for this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, again, when are morals going to be more important than the skill level of a player?
Yeah, that is a drum that we continue to beat. And going back to some of the stuff that we talked about earlier, where I'm just like, there's benefits to that, but at the same time, we haven't really, with the coaches and the GMs that we talked about earlier, it's like, cool, I see that you opened a book and learned something, but why should I care about you coming back and getting the privilege to play at the highest level or to coach at the highest level of this game? It's like, we've seen it happen in the past multiple times, and it's like, well, the needle hasn't really been moved in any positive direction. It's just been moved in favor of you, because at the end of the day, this is a business, and people want somebody who has that experience, that resume that will help them win. Because at the end of the day, like, we just got to win at all costs. And if that means that we bring somebody who doesn't bring great vibes, I'm still upset with the Rangers. And this would make me even more upset and then remind me that I can only handle one team and
Their
be
disappointments.
critical of their problems because it's too much. It's too much. All I know is I'm going to be very upset if the Rangers make me watch Miko play with Kane.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for you.
I'm just...
Next up is Vegas. They recently traded for Barbashev for a prospect. I think his name is Zach Dean, who was a recent first rounder, which is interesting. It doesn't look like Barbashev has a very big salary. He has 2.25. So, but I still don't see how they'd be able to afford Timo, like I said.
On one hand, I feel like, okay, well, I'm not a GM. I don't know how you manage all this stuff and make, money come out of nowhere. So that's one side of it. On the other side of it, I just feel like Vegas just wants to be in the conversation.
Yeah, they get major case of FOMO, and they're literally in on all the big names. But let's be clear, the only reason the Sharks are getting rid of Timo Meier is because they will not be able to afford signing him to a long-term contract. If salary cap wasn't an issue, I think we would keep Timo because we could see him helping to up the team again because he's a heck of a player. I don't think Vegas is a real contender in getting him. I think they just threw his name in to kind of maybe scare the Devils into like giving them what they want. I don't know. I don't know.
The Devils social manager is telling the GM, hey, look.
They see these rumors.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, going back to Barbashev, like, I mean, he's in, quote unquote prime, and I can't say that I've followed the Blues hardly at all to know what he's about. But just like we were talking about earlier, when I looked at Vegas's roster, and they have nearly like 20 million on IR.
Yeah, it's bad.
And one of like on one hand, hold on, let me get to.
How is that possible? They seem like the only team to have so many players on the long term.
Well, to be fair, Mark Stone had another back surgery. So, and then Robert Lehner at the beginning of the season had surgery. I have no idea what's going on with Nolan Patrick. And then Logan Thompson recently went down with injury. So, I get that they're looking to add some folks, especially in place of Mark Stone, because they haven't been doing as great with him out of the lineup. But it just, it makes my brain do loops just thinking about, like, how do you... I'm just interested in knowing, like, the moves that you're making, are they long-term goals or long-term goals? Are they long-term potential on your team, or are they just like strictly for rental? Which I feel like would maybe with Barbashev, because of the trade that was made for him, what they gave up an AHL player.
Yeah.
Feels like a rental to me.
I also, besides Vegas being in the same division, I don't think Timo likes Vegas. Like, any time that they go up against them, he gets very angry and plays angry, and he's just like, he just gives off these very negative vibes towards them.
But I guess I'll play the business side of it. Does Greer care about that?
If Timo doesn't want to go to a certain team, I feel like Greer should, what's the word? What am I looking for? He should honor that, like.
I think in the case of Erik Karlsson, you'd be honoring that.
But whatever. I also.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but then at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, but like he's making a business move with Timo.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be smart to send your top, like your star player, to a division rival. That's not a business move.
Which I think goes back to what we were talking about. I just think Vegas just wants to pick me.
They're pick me girl. Well, I also didn't like the rumors about the Blues when those came about earlier in the week. Because that didn't make sense.
I think the Blues also have a case of FOMO.
Yeah, maybe. But like my thing we were joking about was like all the Blues fans are always angry at the Sharks whenever they play together. Even now, even though this was like 4 years ago almost, about the hand pass. But who made that hand pass during the playoffs, Jay? Mr. Timo Meier. Imagine if he played for that team. They couldn't hold that against us.
They'd be all about those hand passes.
This is volleyball now.
They turn away every time Bennington throws a fit, so they're used to not caring so much.
I guess my vote is for the Devils. For him to end up there.
Oh yeah,
he'll be happy with.
It's either he goes to Devils or he goes nowhere. Because if it's down to the Devils and Vegas, like those are two different emotions that would be going on.
What if the Rangers scoop in there and take him instead?
Unfortunately, you're too preoccupied with Patrick Kane. I would have loved, it was between, for me early on, it was between, if we're getting rid of Timo, it's either the Devils or the Rangers. Like, I would be happy with either of those teams. But now that they're out of the race because they're being difficult, yeah, I guess, unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen for quite some time, and it's nerve-wracking to have to continue going through this roller coaster. I'm already at the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, we're not keeping him. Just hurry up and tell me what we're getting.
Yeah.
But like, stop throwing in these curveballs of a Pacific Division rival is in talks. Because Vegas has entered the conversation.
Waiting for them to leave the chat.
Has entered the chat.
I need them to leave quickly. I don't like these rumors. Like,
show them the door.
For 2-3 weeks, like for a month now, I've been very sad about the possibility. And we know that it was more of like, it's probably going to happen. But to me, I was in denial the whole time. And I'm like, maybe they'll keep him. Maybe they'll work something out and keep him, because you want a Timo Meier on your team. We talked to Amanda about this after we recorded too last week, right? She's like, Timo Meier is the type of player every team wants, which is why so many teams have been asking about him. I am going to be so upset when they announce it.
My hope is, I think Timo's getting moved, and I think unfortunately, we have to accept that. But I would like to see some other contracts get moved in the off season to make potential room for players. Because, like, what is it? Earlier today, where we started seeing that the Sharks are interested in potentially acquiring Greenway. So you can see that Greer is making these moves to make the team as he would like it. And he's trying to get the roster to be younger
and cheaper.
And I would like to see more of these moves in the off season, on top of potentially getting some more draft picks for the upcoming draft.
Yeah, it's just like Timo and Karlsson have such a good chemistry. They're also like very brotherly love when you see them on socials and stuff, and on the ice. It translates well. Obviously, they are the team. And then there's also rumors surrounding Carlson now, which I don't know if there's any weight to those rumors, but just hearing about your other star player possibly getting traded the same season, it's so disheartening. Like how do you stay a fan of a team that just gets rid of all your favorites?
I feel like the trade talk around Erik Karlsson is mostly the hockey media at large.
Yeah.
Because they see that we suck. They see that he's doing amazing. Naturally, a team in our situation would be looking
To sell, yeah.
to sell. But I don't, just because of what we've seen with, like, because of his no movement clause, the 4 years on his contract, I just don't feel like anything we get in return. Okay, on one hand, yeah, it's probably the best season to trade him because he's having such a great season, and you would be interested in getting picks for this draft because of what we've heard about it. But I feel like it's that salary. It's the salary. It's the hit to our cap that I just feel like, unless it's a really good deal, I just hope that we don't make that deal. With Timo, I just feel like because of the fact that he's gonna potentially need to be signed at like $9 million a year, we just don't have that room, and I don't see any options other than waiting till the off season. And by then, just from what I've heard and seen, you want to do it now versus after the season, because his like value is at peak right now and you want to do it now. I just feel like that is like 98% focus for the Sharks right now. And then Karlsson, I don't think it's as dire of a focus to move him, and I just feel like it's mostly the media just like salivating over Karlsson basically having like an amazing season.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh man, imagine him on this other team, and it's like, go away.
Well, it's not just the rumors though, because I've heard that someone who used to work in the league was like, trade rumors are just rumors unless you hear that the GM or assistant GM are in attendance watching whatever player the rumors are surrounding. And was it Thursday or Tuesday, the Oilers, one of their GM or assistant GM was in attendance at the game watching. So it's like, is there weight to these rumors, or are they looking at another player? You know, like, I don't know.
I mean, just because, like, they're free to come over and look.
Yeah, but usually it's more serious.
Free to come over and window shop.
It's more serious. Like, there's more possibility that a trade will happen if one of these people are in attendance watching, scouting.
I don't think it happens by the trade deadline. I'm not ruling out that it could happen in the off season. But I think for me, I'd rather, if we still suck in like a couple of seasons, then yeah, the hit to potentially have to retain salary for like a couple of seasons for Erik Karlsson, or potentially have to go out and get a third team involved. Like, I would be okay with it happening in like a couple of seasons if we're just not getting anywhere, because, you know, Karlsson's not getting any younger, and just with the chats, from what you can tell from people interviewing him, at the end of the day, yes, he would like to get a cup. So, but right now, I don't see anything happening until, at the very earliest, the off season. But who's to say? But, you know, with the Oilers, like, where do you get the money? It just keep coming back to like, Jesus Christ, you have like McDavid, Draisaitl. I mean, you paid way too much for Jack Campbell. It's just like they're having problems with their cap too, but at the same time, they are kind of, I guess, maybe in the Leafs situation where they have like a ton of like really talented players that they kind of have that pressure that they kind of need to win in like the next couple of years before those contracts are up. And then now you're like, well, where am I going to get the money to keep you, or potentially have to break up whatever chemistry is there? So, and Canadian media just being the way that it is, it just seems like I feel like they would be trying to find some way to take on an Erik Karlsson, but I'm less concerned about that than right now with Timo.
I don't know. Next weekend, we're going to try to hold a support group for me because you're fine with it. I'm not.
Yeah, next week's episode will probably be a lot of deconstructing trades. And potentially we'll try to get some other folks to bring in their just a group huddle for
emotional support
for
those of us who love Timo. And possibly other players.
I mean, look, I'm just saying, I'm not happy that we're getting rid of Timo. It is what it is. And I'm trying to look at the possibility that we have something good to look forward to for the long haul of success, because right now it's not going to be with Timo at this time.
I know, but it's still fresh, and I'm going to need some time to process this.
I think for me, I still have carryover from when we were trying to figure out whether we were going to keep Hurdle or not. So I've already just kind of like been seeing where we're headed, and I think I've never come out of that hole.
Do you think we should have let Hurdle go and kept Timo?
Yes. But that is that last gift that Doug Wilson gave to us. So we're just gonna have to live with our decisions. But I think for me, with the upcoming trade deadline, it's the fresh thing for me is the Rangers looking to get Kane, and just stop. Like, it was like the one good thing to watch, some great chemistry, on the Rangers with Mika and all, and like all that, and now you're just gonna ruin it. And now I don't care if the Rangers get anywhere near the cup. and how they handled Pride Night, because I'm still mad about them for that. But in any case, so I think that'll do it for this week's episode. Hang on tight, everybody who's maybe grabbing onto the caboose of this season on the way over to the highlights of a potential good draft. For everyone else who is starry-eyed at the potential of getting to the cup, like, must be nice. No.
That's gonna be our slogan. Must be nice.
Must be nice. That should be our sign-off. Must be nice. All right. Thanks for listening or watching in on this week's episode. I am your host, Jerry.
I'm Nessa. I will appreciate virtual hugs during this hard time, this difficult time.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.